Are You Really Going to Eat That? Podcast episode 134. Hey there, I'm your host Wendy Hill and I'm a naturopathic nutritional therapist and expert in female hormone health. I specialise in helping women gain confidence and understand their bodies, allowing them to shine. I'm a huge foodie and this podcast allows me to bring you an eclectic mixture of guests where food and health is our uniting passion. Hey all, how are you doing? So if you're listening to this live, it is the last day of March, the end of the first quarter. Amazing, isn't it? I can't believe we've got here already. Today, I wanted to talk to you about food that improves sleep and mood. How amazing is it that today I'm going to be talking to you about two things that are so important, and yet looking after one looks after the other. So thinking about kind of foods that support your digestive health. So before we even think about mood and sleep, it's just thinking about, am I eating things that are going to encourage good digestive health? So things like fermented foods. So I talk about this a lot. So sauerkraut, kimchi are fermented foods. Kefir water, probiotic yogurt, so kefir yogurts and things like that are all amazing ways of supporting your digestive health. So fermented foods and drinks, basically, they've been allowed to ferment, the clues in the name. But what that means is, is that they've kind of been allowed to age. And as they age, they get bacteria in them. There's no way of like dressing it up. They get bacteria, but this is good for us. So aged cheeses as well have this kind of have different bacteria, and they're all different. Each different thing that you eat, like each different sauerkraut, each different, if you eat a different family recipe or you buy a certain sauerkraut from the shops and things, they will all have slightly different microbes. Sourdough, so each bread that you have will be kind of appropriate to the baker and the environment that bread has been allowed to ferment in. So it's picking up all these different things. Amazing, isn't it? Sounds a bit freaky, but the key thing is to remember that your digestive system is filled with microbes. It's filled with gut bacteria, gut microbiome, as we call it. And think about it like a rainforest. I think this is the best way to think about it. Think about it like a rainforest. And what you want is the healthiest rainforest. We are now knowing that environmentally, cutting down the rainforest has had a huge impact on the health of the earth. You want the best rainforest that you can get to have a healthy body. So you want the biggest diversity of plants that are available in there. You want the biggest diversity of microbes. And going a bit off piece, I'm going to bring it back a little bit. So because I'm going to go way out there in a minute and you're all going to go, what? So think about that gut microbiome as an environment within itself. And we want a really diverse range of gut bacteria, healthy gut bacteria, so that they can do all of the things that they need to do. What we need to understand is that our different gut bacteria interact together, which is where I got the analogy with the rainforest. They interact together, and some gut bacteria feed other kinds of gut bacteria. How amazing is that? So by eating fermented foods, what we are doing is we are introducing more healthy gut bacteria so that we have this really diverse range. And the more diverse the range, the healthier our gut microbiome, the healthier our rainforest is going to be. So I hope that made sense to you guys now. I know I've kind of drawn the circle in full. So the biggest diversity, the healthiest range is what you want. And eating fermented foods, so foods that have been allowed to ferment and to have healthy bacteria. So I'm not suggesting you go and eat a moldy piece of cheese. That isn't the answer. Please don't do that. That is likely to have exactly the opposite effect. But if you are eating foods that have been properly fermented, so even normal yogurt, don't even have to go for kefir yogurt, has had time to culture. It's come from milk and aged and soured, but in a correct way, in a controlled way. So fermented foods is the first thing that you can do. And then thinking about kind of reducing foods that might kind of, or reducing instances of the bad bacteria. So, antibiotics kill bacteria. That's the whole job. Now, if you've got an infection, you need antibiotics. This is the key to them. Having them at the right time is really important. But I would say if you have a course of antibiotics, think about what that is doing to your digestive microbiome, to your gut bacteria, because they tend to be fairly far reaching. They don't, they're not easy. At the end of the day, you take them in through your gut. It's hardly that they're going to come into the gut and go, oh, hey, you must be the nice guys. I won't kill you. I'm just going to go off and find the bit of bacteria that I need. They kind of go in and kill bacteria, which can be your healthy bacteria as well. So also think about repopulating if you have to have a course of antibiotics, and minimizing unnecessary antibiotic use, I think, is key. Then you need to feed your army. So you need to feed your gut microbiome, and they love fiber. So fiber-rich foods is the simplest way, just lots of vegetables. Vegetables are really high in fiber, lots of whole foods. So whole grains are really good for your gut bacteria as well. And there are certain foods that even do both jobs. So things like Jerusalem artichoke, asparagus is just about to come into season again. That feeds both. So there are foods that you can introduce as well. But I think rather than trying to make it too complicated, is just think diverse plant-based foods that have been grown, so nuts and seeds including in that, whole grains that have been minimally processed, if at all, are the best way to feed your gut bacteria. And on a simple way of thinking about it, sugar. So we have good and bad bacteria, and that is part of the balance. We can't have an all good, there is always a baddie in a Disney film, so it can't always be all good. Life is about balance. So we do have some bad bacteria. And, my guess is, I'm not an expert on gut bacteria, but my guess is that, part of the balance is that we do potentially need some, that there is that, requirement for good and bad, the yin and the yang. But what we don't want is too many. We want mostly good. And so thinking about the bad bacteria, you don't want to be eating foods that are going to promote an overgrowth of the less beneficial bacteria, shall we call them, not the baddies, the less beneficial. So sugar is key with that. So avoiding sugar-based foods. Now, fruit is naturally high in sugar, and it is a natural sugar. So I'm not suggesting you don't eat fruit, but I also am saying that when I talk about fruits and vegetables, I'm talking about vegetables first with a small amount of fruit. 2 to 3 portions of fruit a day is really all we should be eating. Whereas I would encourage you to be eating 7, 8, 9, 10 portions of vegetables a day if you can include that in your diet. So even fruit, to a minimal level, not excluding it. Fruit is not the enemy, but just thinking, how much have I had? If you are eating a predominance of fruit, that is sugar in itself. And then, of course, sugary foods, processed foods, they are going to be feeding those less beneficial bacteria. So repopulating the bacteria and then feeding them well, first stage to having that healthy digestion, that healthy process. So tryptophan rich foods. Think about having a couple of portions of these every day in your diet. So white meat, turkey and chicken in particular are really good. Turkey's really good source of tryptophan. Eggs, fish, peanuts, all kind of nuts really. Pumpkins and sesame seeds, but all kind of seeds really. And tofu and soy and edamame beans, all really great sources of tryptophan. So including those in your diet. So, and oats, I forgot oats, porridge oats. So oats for breakfast, eggs for breakfast, maybe have some turkey with your lunch, or could you have some fish with your lunch? You've had your 2 portions already. It isn't hard, guys. It really isn't hard. So including them in your diet. So just to go over, turkey and chicken, eggs, fish, all kind of nuts, but peanuts are the highest. All kind of seeds, but pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds, tofu, soy, and oats are your highest kind of foods. Most foods, lots of foods will have tryptophan in them, but these are the higher ones. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. And of course, you knew there was going to be something else, didn't you? So the other part of the puzzle is all the other ingredients. And I kind of liken this to like trying to make bread without yeast, or maybe trying to make a lovely Victoria sandwich and you don't have any vanilla, and it's kind of okay, but you're like, I'm not going back for seconds for that. It's kind of the same, it's kind of the same in my brain anyway. And it's kind of the same thing. So you kind of need other stuff. You don't just need tryptophan. And these are called what we call cofactors. So they're other little bits of ingredients. You only need little bits of these, but you kind of need all of them to be able to make enough serotonin and melatonin, those are the hormones, remember, for our mood and our sleep. So you need enough of them. So you need things like iron, you need vitamin B6, you need magnesium, you need riboflavin, you need all of these little itty bits of vitamins and minerals to be able to make those hormones that you need. Now that starts to get a bit complicated now, doesn't it? You're like, oh my goodness, Wendy, I've just like I've written down, or I've mentally written down those things that you've just said. I think, I can have eggs for breakfast or oats for breakfast. I get that. And, yes, I like turkey. So I might swap turkey out for other things in the week and stuff I've got there. And now suddenly you're saying, what else? There is a really, really simple way of being able to make sure that you get enough of these wonderful cofactors. Remember, this is a science word, cofactors. So these wonderful ingredients that you need to make those mood boosting and sleep inducing hormones. Just eat a wide variety of colourful vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. I'm done, guys. How easy is that? It is super, super simple. And this is what the fundamentals of having good health is all about, is understanding what you can do, understanding how those things work, and then taking away some little simple tips. So making sure you've got colour on your plate, making sure you've got a wide variety of different foods, prioritizing whole grains, whole, nuts, seeds, all those wonderful things that are full of great nutrients, interspersed with a few key things like your oats and your eggs and your tofu and your turkey, interspersing with those, and you have a wonderful health-giving diet. Your diet, not my diet, your diet, because you've chosen particularly which things you're going to combine it with. Your diet, which is going to support your long-term health, going to support your mood, and going to support your sleep. Amazing, isn't it? Life is simple, guys, if you allow it to be. That is it from me this week. Next week, we are joined by the lovely Jackie Wood. Now, Jackie is the Menopause Mentor, and she shares with us her story of her journey through the perimenopause and the menopause, and kind of how that helped her embark on her new role as a mentor, and kind of explain to us why and how. So if you're feeling a little bit like you don't really know where to turn and what are your options, it's a really good listen for you. She's really lovely, Jackie is very calming. So it's a very lovely calming episode. So join me next week when I talk to Jackie. That is it from me this week. Of course, all I want to know as usual is what you're having for tea, but more importantly, what tryptophan rich food are you having for your tea tonight? Thank you for listening to the Are You Really Going to Eat That podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with your family and friends? And the best way to help me get out to a wider audience would be to leave me a review. So if you just got a couple of minutes, if you popped into iTunes and just scroll down to the bottom, click 5 stars, of course, and leave me a review. That really helps our ratings. And to make sure you get every episode in your inbox on a Wednesday as it's released, remember to click subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. Tune in again next week for the latest episode.